crews are removing the wreckage of a collapsed highway bridge in Baltimore with the help of two state-of-the-art cranes. The equipment is being used to clear the twisted metal and concrete remains of the Francis Scott Key Bridge and the cargo ship that collided with it earlier this week. The bridge collapse has stymied the search for 4 missing workers. And that search will not resume until more of the debris can be removed.
Not only that, the crash site is also preventing ships from entering or leaving one of the busiest ports on America's East Coast, sending companies scrambling to reroute cargo. Our Max Goldwasser sat down with a supply chain expert at GVSU to break down the economic impact of that bridge collapse.
Start with this. As a researcher, what are you looking at? What stands out most to you about this situation?
I think the thing that stands out most is we have lost track of what supply chain management is supposed to be. It's supposed to be that you know the entire supply chain all the way back to the hole in the ground, as it's called, for your production materials. If you're making water coolers, you're buying a lot of different components literally all over the world these days. And all along that chain, there's the possibility of something going wrong. Now, we found out the hard way during COVID that the jam up turned out to be at the ports. And unfortunately, we didn't have a plan B for a lot of these hang-ups that we had.
We talked about this on the phone on Thursday. We live in this just-in-time supply chain economy. So when something doesn't get there in time, there's this entire snowball effect. What is the potential snowball effect here?
Well, the biggest snowball effect is with what that port is primarily used for. What they cluster in is automobile import and export at that particular location. These carriers have huge numbers of imported cars that we are shuttling off of these ships. And they're just plain not going to be able to do that. They've got to go to another port.
Is there anything that we might feel here in West Michigan because of this this crash?
Probably not, unless you were purchasing a foreign automobile. Now, the one that I am worried about is tires, automobile tires and rims. Because a lot of our tire rims are made in either in Argentina or primarily in Brazil now. And those particular auto parts suppliers depend on obviously shipping to our assembly points here, not only in Michigan, but again all over the country.
So then, does this raise a larger question about the supply chain and the system we have in place? Does that need to change? Or because this is so rare, what's the point of touching it?
Well, no, it really means that we need more and better plan Bs, for lack of a better way of putting it. So do we need an alternate source? Do we need an alternate route? Do we need an alternate carrier? Let's have something in our back pocket. And some are doing that. More likely, though, they are finding local sources to say, we don't want that to ever happen to us again.
And you don't see something like that happening here in this case?
No, not in this particular instance.
And that was just a portion of their conversation. You can watch the full interview with this story on our website. The other major question on people's mind, could this happen here? To answer that, Max spoke with a professor in WMU's Department of Civil and Construction Engineering. He admitted this is a unique situation. He said it's hard to predict a giant shipping container with that magnitude of force hitting one of the support beams. So he doesn't want people to panic, especially since the major bridges in Michigan, like the Ambassador Bridge and Mackinac Bridge, they're built differently. Those two are suspension bridges, and the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore is a truss bridge.
So they are long span bridges. They have much more clearance to have, and then have the supports way away from the main navigation channel. And also they have a cable, like a system that can hold the bridge in place. This is the one we saw at, Maryland is a completely different one because it all depends on the supports.
In his mind, this doesn't really come down to a design flaw in Baltimore. It's been labeled in fair condition every inspection since 2008, the latest of which came in May of 2022. But he says it wouldn't be a bad idea to consider adding reinforcements or barriers around support beams as an extra safety measure for bridges in the future.